if you want, to get better and to actually go after that objective, it can help you feel satisfied without going over what that objective was supposed to be, or doing, not over, but doing more, something else, which could be overtraining. His focus that day is like downhill sprints. Like, yes, we're going to be going on a certain distance, and parts of that I wish I could go faster, but if we're focusing on a downhill sprint that day, that there's a technique in there I'm supposed to get out of this workout. And if I focus that my effort is going to be on learning that technique and getting better at it, I can be more satisfied with that workout in general. It's like the buy-in of, I trust my coach has a thing that we need to do in this workout. I'm going to focus on that thing. And then I have satisfaction from that.
Hi, I'm Chris Waddell. Welcome to Living It, the podcast where we join experts in the experience of being human. Be bold. Say yes to adventure. Say yes to living it. Welcome to the Name Tags Chat podcast. Today we have Susannah Scaroni, who had one of the greatest performances at the Tokyo Games, went off on her own to go almost world record in the 5K on the track, which was absolutely spectacular. Went off on her own again in the marathon. Didn't quite bring that one all the way to the finish, but was in spectacular shape as she approached the world majors in the fall. And we're going to talk about a little bit of what happened there and how she is prepared for Boston, which is now starting over. So Susannah, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
This is awesome. So psyched to see you. I mean, watching you in that 5K, it was a little hard for us as the commentators because we get the world feed, right? So we're watching the world feed and you made your move and they panned to like the field event as you made your move.
Yeah.
And then they came back in this wide and it's like, okay, somebody's gone off the front, but we can't figure out who's gone off the front. And then it was you and you kept going. What, you went from like, what was it, lap 7 that you went on?
I think it was 5 because I think there were 7 laps that I had to go around by myself. Yeah. It's funny you say that. It was like that for me too. I was, as an athlete, it's nice at the games because you have the jumbo screen to look and see where everyone else is. And I was looking because that wasn't like a move. I genuinely pulled over to let the next person go and they weren't there. And I looked at the jumbo screen and all I saw was the field throwers too. So I was like, I didn't know I was making a gap from them because the field thrower was on the Jumbotron. And then when I tried to pull out into lane 2 to let the next person pull their lap, they were like 100 meters back. So I was like, oh no, I was trying to decide, do I wait? And then I was like, I don't want to wait. I'm just going to go like not crazy hard because when they caught me, I didn't want to be dead. So I was just trying to be steady until they caught up with me again. And I was honestly pretty embarrassed that happened because I was like, nobody goes out with 7 laps to go. I'm going to wait till they catch me. But then when there were like 2 laps left, I was like, okay, I think I need to try and hold this now. And my biggest regret is, that 1 second away from the world record. If it's also somewhat nice knowing that I could have made that pace. Just knowing how I was feeling to be conservative. It's nice knowing I think I could have done it, which is cool. But that would have been really nice.
This is part of your mentality, isn't it? As a racer, like the purity of going out and just going, as opposed to the tactical part of it. Some people love the tactical part of like, oh, we get in the pack and then I can move my way out of the pack and sprint for the finish. But you're the other way around, aren't you?
Yes. And it's so funny. Like when I talked to you later that day, it was just so funny to me because I had been on a podcast with you last summer talking about how much I was dreading doing what I know I needed to do going into the race and being tactical. And then to have accidentally not had to do that anymore and that it worked out, it was just like the biggest miracle in the world. And that's what I love about that race. It's not necessarily the gold, it's that how I got to play to my, not only my strength, but my like joy of racing.
You need some joy in your racing though, too, don't you? I mean, it can seem like drudgery, early morning workouts, late evening workouts, 2 a days, 3 a days, whatever it is, it can seem like drudgery. But do you really enjoy that training process?
I genuinely enjoy the training process. I would say I enjoy training more than I enjoy racing. Um, and it's because of that. It's your focus really is on what your intensity is supposed to be that day. Like what my coach tells me my intensity is, I get to really think about that intensity, and then I get to think about, okay, how do I become more efficient and effective at that intensity? And I enjoy that piece a lot. And it's so individual. It doesn't matter what the other person 75% is. It's like what mine is, and then how I can make that better. Um, and when you get to do that at a race, it just like it doesn't happen very often. And I am so happy that I got to enjoy that. And I truly cherish it. And it opened my eyes to think about how, maybe there are other possibilities in a race scenario, especially like a long distance race, that it doesn't have to be tactical. Maybe there are times where if you know your strength, you can just focus on your strength. And that was what was shocking to me about that race is I didn't think that was something that was possible. I thought you needed to play by the rules, which are tactical race and come out at the very end ahead in the front. And now I just have a little more openness to maybe thinking there are other options.
That is really interesting, just in terms of life, though, right? Because you're talking about training versus racing. And so much of it in training can be this self-conscious kind of thought of you're on the track and then there's somebody else there. And you're like, is she faster than I am? Am I faster than she is? She looks like she's enjoying this and I'm dying right now. What does that mean? So we have this self-conscious part, but it seems like and then that happens in life as well, right? Where we're always looking around like, oh, that person seems like they have it all figured out and I have no idea what I'm doing. These kinds of things. How have you found this position of not necessarily being in that self-conscious position, but being in a position where you're within yourself and you know who you are? And how does that work? How do you get there?
Yeah, that's such a great way to say it. It's very empowering to have that experience that, hey, what I'm experienced with, which as we talked about last summer, is I really like the individual aspect of training where I'm like feeling it. I'm feeling what it feels like to push at this intensity. And then from there, I'm like, okay, how can I make that feel smoother? All these different biomechanical things I can do in that intensity. I love that part. Um, and so I think the empowerment part is what you do love. You can apply that to challenges. You can apply that all over your life, finding out who you are and then applying that to wherever you're at. Worked in that 5K, and it can probably work in multiple other areas for each of us. And if, I think it's worth highlighting that piece that, yeah, there isn't always a rule, that life's much more complex and we all have different interests and different passions, and they can work, in multiple realms, I guess.
But some of that's trusting yourself too, right? That, I mean, obviously you have a coach, but there's a lot of internal stuff where you're trusting yourself. You're trusting, okay, yes, I know where I am. I know what I need to do. I'm kind of processing the information that's coming into me, and I understand what I'm, how I'm trying to maximize my output. That trust can be really hard though, can it?
That's a great point. And I think I've learned this in multiple areas from grad school to realtor racing, that confidence and trust come from experience. So I know that I have an amazing, brilliant coach giving me workouts. And then if I am actually tuned into those workouts, then I can learn from my body, building that confidence, which then makes it so I can trust what I know I can do. So I think you have to have the effort part. You have to go through the work, pay attention, not just do the distance. Like you can't just do the route our coach assigns us. You need to actually think about what you're doing, to learn how to do it. And then after that, you have so much more confidence, which then can lead to trust. And that's empowering. And I think what I learned when I was in grad school, I had to learn from wheelchair racing. I remember thinking about this, that I needed to do the actual workouts on the things that were challenging to me, like literature reviews and things like that. I had to do them in order to have some more confidence and trust, and then I would enjoy them. But at first, it was scary and hard and stressful. And I told myself I just had to do them. And I think that's probably applies to everyone.
Does that help you avoid those pitfalls? I mean, sometimes it's really easy to be overtrained, where you train and
Yeah.
you train and you train, you know, which is probably in some ways coming from a position of insecurity, right? That I'm trying to train more and more, and then you just dig that hole that then takes forever to get out of, just because you're just so fatigued and you don't recover. Are you able to kind of avoid that hole by having a really personal involvement in your training and being in control?
Absolutely. I think when you approach a workout understanding what the objective is, and that I've had multiple conversations with my coach Adam about the objectives of the workout, and so at this point he can kind of write a workout and I know what that objective is because we talked about it before. If you want, to get better and to actually go after that objective, it can help you feel satisfied without going over what that objective was supposed to be, or doing, maybe not over, but doing more, something else, which could be overtraining. So his focus that day is like downhill sprints. Like, yes, we're going to be going on a certain distance, and parts of that I wish I could go faster. But if we're focusing on a downhill sprint that day, that there's a technique in there I'm supposed to get out of this workout. And if I focus that my effort is going to be on learning that technique and getting better at it, I can be more satisfied with that workout in general. It's not like I'm needing to overtrain or needing to do more, because it's like the buy-in of, I trust my coach has a thing that we need to do in this workout. I'm going to focus on that thing. And then I have satisfaction from that.
And if you feel successful coming out of your workout, which sometimes can be the challenge, right? I mean, oftentimes it's so easy to come out of your workout going, oh, I should have done this better and I should have done that better. But if you're coming out of it satisfied, then that's building that confidence and probably that enthusiasm for the next workout, because you feel like you've been successful. And then you go into the next one, you're like, oh, I want to do the next one because then I should be successful in the next one. And you keep building.
Yeah. And sometimes the success, like, I'm glad you said that, the success is finding out what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm not the best sprinter and off a start line, as we saw in Tokyo, like in the 800 meter. So we do a lot of standing start sprints here, and I don't feel like I'm much faster than I was then, but I realize that I'm practicing it and I'm getting more experience when we do 30 sets of them in a workout. And just by, going through them and thinking about each one, that's what I needed to do that day. I didn't need to be like faster on each one of them. I needed to like pay attention to what I was doing.
Be in the process. So coming out of Tokyo, which is funny for you, right? Because really, if you had your druthers, you would be a marathoner. Like, open it up, let's go long. But yet the track is all this technical stuff that is more of a challenge. So you came out of Tokyo having won the 5K. I mean, just with this amazing finish, put in probably one of the more spectacular performances in the marathon as well. I mean, didn't work out the way that you might have hoped it would, but still an amazing performance in the marathon. And then you were coming into the marathon season. You had, last year was weird, right? Because they had all 5 of the major marathons in the fall, just back to back. I mean, even Boston and Chicago were Sunday and Monday. So 24 hours, or maybe not even 24 hours.
Yeah,
races.
exactly.
But that was for you, like, this sounds like a perfect case scenario. What were you thinking approaching the marathons last year?
Well, I had a lot more information after Tokyo. And what I was thinking was, number one, I was like, I need to get better at the rain. So honestly, I had, that week I had recoated my hand rings with this different material. We had gotten the sandpaper to put on my gloves. And Adam and I were focused on getting more experience in the rain, because I knew in Tokyo I was strong compared to the rest of the world. And I just knew I was weak in the rain, and I needed to fix that for the marathon season. So that was my goal. I was like, well, I felt confident that I had the tools to do well on a dry day in any of those courses. And then if it happens to be rain, I wanted to spend some time in those weeks getting more familiar with some rain options.
So you had that, and then you're approaching the marathons. I mean, so what? Berlin was the first one, 27th of September. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And what happened?
So we got back from Tokyo. We had a week off in our training and to reset. So then the next week I had, put all the stuff on my chair the week we had off to get ready for rain. And so this was the Thursday of that week. I just kind of was working on things. And I was out on a 12-mile training run, and I was on a 4-lane road, and there was nobody really out. And then I was 4 miles in, and the next thing I knew, I was traveling forwards very quickly. And immediately my thought was like, this is not going to go well, because I could tell how fast I was moving. And the next thing I know from my memory is I was on the ground, my racing chair was over here, and I saw a gentleman walking towards me from a parked car. So I got hit from behind on a road that's 45 miles per hour, and ended up getting a burst fracture of my T8 vertebrae. It lost 75% of its height. So now I went from a square to being a triangle, and I was in the hospital for like now. 4 days. Yes. I know.
But no spinal cord injury. I mean, didn't affect.
It doesn't seem like it. There were some MRI where it was a burst, so it did kind of cross that line to like the spinal column area, but I haven't had any tingling or anything, and so I've had a lot of follow-ups with the spinal and brain institute, and so far seem to be not having any spinal cord injury type symptoms.
And so you were getting ready for like this is almost like a lifetime of work for like this moment. Like this was supposed to be your moment, and then you got hit by a car, and then what happened?
Yeah, then it was just really crazy timing to know how positioned I was for these races. But then I was, also faced with the fact that I was alive, and I was grateful for that. And they said I needed to be in a back brace for 4 months, and I wore it 24/7. And so because of that was not, one, in a back brace, you're not going to be in a racing chair, really. In addition to that, the angle of being forwards was something they needed me to avoid. And so there was like a lot of questions about like what the future would be. Knowing like I knew I had a bunch of potential, and then I was like, well, is that all gone forever now? I don't really know. I was so grateful that I was alive though, that I was pretty able to psychologically focus on getting recovered. And I have to say it made it easier. I think it made it easier that it was after Tokyo, and like I knew I had done something that wasn't even a goal. I couldn't have ever guessed I would have gotten a gold medal. And so to have gotten it, I was like, I have a lot to be thankful for, the most to be thankful for. And I'm in a unique position that I got a gold medal 2 weeks ago. And I now have my life, and I can just focus on recovering. And that made it a lot easier to bear. That being said, I would be lying if I wasn't extremely curious about what would have happened in the marathon season that fall. But so anyways, 4 months in a back brace, wasn't allowed to lift more than like 5 pounds for the first 6 weeks. So then after that, we went up to like 20 pounds. we gradually got to there. So I also, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I am not working out for this long either. So I have a new back position. I have not really exercised with any force or intensity. But all of that combined, I had my life and I had gotten the experience of Tokyo, and I was really able to kind of psychologically be okay with everything. And just focus on the back recovery. And then January 3rd, my spine surgeon had said I could take the back brace off. And then he's like, use common sense after that. My scoliosis got worse after we took the brace off. So it's like I knew I had lost muscle mass, but then I also like had more muscle mass needs to keep my back upright. So I was just, it's in some ways was kind of nice. I was like, wow, I have this like new goal that I would like to just be able to keep my back kind of up in my racing chair while I'm training. I don't necessarily have to get to the speeds I used to be at or the amount of time, but if I can just be in that position without my back getting fatigued in like 10 minutes, that's a cool new goal. So I made small chunks of goals throughout the last few months since January.
This is like being successful in your workout again. Same kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. It's 100% that. And when you can compare that to like knowing you're alive and things like that, then those successes are really like just like icing on the cake.
I heard some stories as well about you lying on the ground to be able to do the UBE, like the arm crank.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are true.
Yes. So that's what we ended up doing since I wasn't able to be forwards. Adam, my coach, decided like we have a UBE, which is kind of like an arm ergometer, an arm crank ergometer, but normally you sit upright in front of it like this.
So like a stationary bike that you pedal with your arms, right? Okay.
Yes. And it's not the kind that you lay on your back. It's just like a chair. And then he took the chair out and put a bench underneath it. So I was able to lay flat on my back and I could still reach the arm cranks. And so when it was like okay to do so, so like about 6 weeks maybe after the injury, I started doing that. Started out like 20 minutes and then got up to like 60 minutes. So I was just going steadily on that every morning. It made me really, really thankful for wheelchair racing because I couldn't see the time. I couldn't see my speed or anything or watts. So I was like just there listening to podcasts. At the end, I started watching movies because I was like struggling to
going
get through
stir
an hour.
crazy.
Yeah. It's really nice to be able to break up a workout with different intensities, but we were just keeping it like steady pace. That was hard.
But talking to Adam, he said that then you got on your roller, and he said that the data from your roller is actually pretty good. Do you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. It took a while. It took a little while, like maybe a month before I was able to start pushing up to like where we were doing max speed attempts and things like that. But yeah, about a month afterwards, I started seeing some very like surprising speeds on the roller. And some of our performance trials that we do throughout the winter were like surprisingly really much faster, like not much, but like they were quite a bit faster than last year, which is really surprising. And like another huge thing that happened was I have a new racing chair now because my other one got hit by a car. So I've been in a new chair position that's been throwing a wrench into things, but at the same time, my speeds have not been impacted too badly. So it's just a lot of things at once. And now's kind of a fine time to do that because like I said, my goals right now are daily goals kind of things. And so, but in the background, things are going much better than I anticipated.
How does your back feel?
It's back and forth. Like Monday of last week, I would say my upper back, I heard a lot of pain at practice. But by and large, like it gets tired sooner than it used to. But I don't have like a ton of back pain during the days. I just sometimes have pain in my upper spine. So it's there were times in January and February I would put the back brace back on because it was hurting during the day, but it's not too bad.
Did you have to have surgery or not?
No, I did not need to have surgery.
Okay. So that's good, but it takes a while for bone to heal. I mean, it takes 3 months,
Exactly.
but then in some ways it almost is like a full year before you kind of feel back to normal. And sometimes it's just that like dull ache.
Yes. Yes,
that-
I have the dull ache. And in the mornings, a lot of time is when I feel that when I wake up. And then depending on the workout, and like I said, the new chair position I'm in, I'm a little flatter, which then puts even more demand to like use your back muscles, bring back up. And so, and I've lost some back muscles by being braced for 4 months, and I have a new back kind of spine position that's keeping me down a little bit more because it's now a triangle. So it's not perfect, but it's so much better than I thought it would be.
So now you're approaching Boston. Boston will be the first time that you're racing since the accident, right? Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. And probably the first time we'll go farther than like 17 miles.
So
Maybe, hopefully.
what are you thinking? Do you have any expectations? How can you approach this just mentally?
Mentally, it's nice because I am going to do what I always do, which is see what I can do that day. And I have a lot of like curiosity about what that's going to be. So that kind of piques my interest. It's more of like an interest than it is like a stressor. Just good. It's just really nice.
No, it's kind of an interesting position to be in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder how good I am, and so,
I know. And I haven't, like I said, we haven't gone more than 17 miles. And we've only been outside for maybe the last few weeks. And I'm in a new chair. So I just, yeah, I'm as interested as you are. But I'm going to try to really enjoy it. I love Boston anyways. And I am excited to be back on the line with other people. I think I just have an appreciation for that more. Like I love training, but now I think I have at least an early new love of like getting to go to a race and be with people on the start line because it's been so long now.
well, it's almost like you've had a forced isolation in some ways with the
Yeah.
recovery and then doing a different kind of training. And it's almost
Yeah.
like, I mean, we sort of emerged, I mean, mostly emerged from COVID. And then this for you is like you sort of emerge from COVID, then you sort of emerge from your recovery. And now it's like, oh, okay, I'm allowed to be outside. I'm allowed to go fast. Like this should be
Yeah.
fun. Are you looking at any of the other competitors? I mean, obviously, like Tatiana is somebody that you competed with and trained with for a long time. Manuela has been super successful. Looking at Madison, who had some great races both in the Paralympic marathon and then also in New York last year.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. I agree with you completely. And my teammate Ian's pushing so well too. She did great in the New York half. I think it's gonna be a good race. I think we have a great field, like probably the best field you could ask for. And I will be happy with whoever wins, I think is what I would say. Like they are great. I have so much respect for all of them. And I'm gonna try my best. And I know that they will be too.
The men's race oftentimes is like right from the gun and taking advantage of those downhills. The women's race has had a little bit more of a pack traditionally. Is that sort of what you expect? Because obviously, I mean, you climb well too, which is something that you get to the second, 3/4 of the way into the race, and then you get to demonstrate that you can actually climb.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. The last like 5 years, Manuela has dominated us from the start on the downhill.
Right.
And I fully expect her to do that. She knows her strengths are coasting, or she has a lot of strengths, but that's one of them. And she makes sure takes advantage of that. So I guess honestly, if I were viewing the race externally, I would say like I'm really interested in how Madison is going to respond to that, because I don't race at Boston as often with Madison. And so for me, I would say like I want to try to stay with Manuel. I want to like also maximize the downhill. That's always a struggle for me. I get dropped there, but I think the nice part is if that separation does happen, there would be a strong pack to be together in that race for like second and third.
To work together, right?
Yeah.
And try to reel those people in up front, whoever it is. And because Madison in Tokyo showed some great speed, both on the track and in the marathon. So it's kind of interesting, just kind of playing all of these elements, and especially for you, where you don't necessarily, what your strengths have been traditionally.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
but right now you're like, are those still my strengths? Are they not my strengths? Do I have different strengths now?
Yes, that is a great way to say it. So it's going to be
interesting and exciting.
Yeah, I don't have anything to hide from them. They should be interested in what I'm going to do, because I'm interested in what I'm going to do as well. And nobody knows.
That is great. It's great to be the wild card, right? Because nobody can really plan for you.
Exactly. I know, it's great. I really actually kind of enjoying that part.
Well, it looks like it seems like you're in such a great, it seems like you're in a great mental state. I mean, it sounds like you're doing really well physically as well. And obviously there are a lot of questions to be answered, but it seems like you're in a really good position, good and healthy position.
Yes,
entering the race.
So thankful for that. I've had some weird, like I said, I know I keep saying like, we're new chair position. I know that's changed some things. Like I've had some forearm issue and like a little bit of upper back pain type things, but those are somewhat managed, I think. And yeah, so I can't really complain about having had a major back injury too much, I guess.
It's still significant. I mean, it's something that most definitely happened, but it sounds like you're going in that position where, some of these are the aches and pains of starting over too.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the forearm stuff, like I've actually been in my racer a little bit recently, and I was thinking, oh, my wrists really hurt right now. And it's like, because you haven't done this in a long time. So
I really think that that's a big part of it.
What happens between now and Boston for you?
Let's see. I'm leaving next Thursday. So until then, I again have some rain stuff to work on. And because that got pushed onto like the way back burner. Right now I have bigger things to think about.
Tell people about the rain part. Why is rain such an issue in a racing chair?
Rain is such an issue because we have rubber coated hand rings. That's what we actually apply contact to. And then we have gloves that are also made of rubber, or coated with rubber. And if you add water into that, it's just like can be like slipping on ice. You may not get any friction, or you might get some. Kind of depends on like how broken in that rubber is, or who knows what that means that day. Sometimes I've had fine friction with rain, and sometimes I have not had any.
Sometimes it's baking grease. It's just like the whole thing feels like it's covered with baking grease.
Yes, exactly. It's like running on ice.
Inside of your elbows, and
Yes. And so doing whatever you can in your power to increase your ability to generate friction when you have water entered into the mixture is very important in this sport.
So you are going now to the sandpaper route where you put sandpaper on your gloves?
I haven't yet, but I think that's what I will start.
which is really interesting one because the sandpaper effectively it creates this rough surface on your gloves against the rubber, which hooks up, but then it also you work through your push rings that much
Yeah.
more quickly as well, because you're pretty much just wearing them down, right?
Yes. Yes. You are like, you were to sand a piece of wood for 26 miles, you're gonna like sand into the wood. And
With
so
a toothpick, yes.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's not ideal for sure. But then what I used in Tokyo was a sticky substance. And that at the end of the marathon in Tokyo became really tacky and it was hard to get my hands off of the hand ring at the end. Which is really bad when you're climbing and you're already on the hand ring for extra time. So there's pros and cons to all of them. Ideally, we just don't get any rain. We just get a tailwind to Boston.
Yeah,
And
if
that
you
will
can
be
sign
perfect
up for a
conditions for
tailwind at
us.
Boston, you would do it every year. That would, it changes the race
Yeah,
immensely.
it's really fun at that point.
Exactly. Well, Susannah, thank you so much for joining us, for telling us. I mean, this is such a cool journey that you're on. I mean, in some ways, it seems like the car accident was a part of your journey. It wasn't something that interrupted your journey. It just kind of diverted your journey, and you're back and looking forward to seeing what happens in Boston. But this
Yes.
is really cool. Thank you for sharing your insight into how a racer prepares, performs, and stays
Yes,
healthy
thanks.
along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for asking me. I'm looking
Always a
forward to it, and
pleasure.
I'm in a cool spot because I'm interested as you are.
I think that's going to be fun. That's going to be super fun to see how it all
Yeah.
works out. And you generally race better when you're happy.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Um, yeah, people can take that away from our talk, like be happy what you do, kind of notice what you do, and then figure out how you can apply those things to other areas. Because
Right.
it can work out. It can work out.
Will the nerves come as you get to the starting line?
Probably, I think so, because with not knowing what you can do and how you can do comes that it like has shaken my confidence, I guess, maybe a little bit, and that trust, like we talked about, where it's like, okay, I don't know what to do at mile 24 now because I haven't been in that position and seen what I can do. So there is going to be some, I think, a little bit of nerves, wondering what to do some places, but at the end of the day, I'm not like, it'll be successful if I do something and learn from it. And that'll be able to overcome like a fear kind of nerves. I think it'll be more of like, well, maybe I could choose the right thing to do. It's like, I'll probably think about that a little bit more that day.
This isn't the be all end all for racing.
Yes,
There will be
exactly.
more races that will follow.
Yes. So that's what's really nice.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck. I look forward to seeing you in
Thank you.
Boston and watching you race. And, we're crossing our fingers, hoping for the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
This will be great. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please tell your friends, please like us, please follow us, and we'll look forward to the next time. We'll have another great story to tell. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to Chris Waddell Living It for more stories on the adaptive community, the Paralympics, artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, experts in the experience of being human. Also follow us on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, and Instagram. I look forward to seeing you next week.